Hey guys, welcome back. Joe Brunsman, insurance broker to the stars. Today we are talking about this massive SonicWall issue. Are they cooked and what your MSP needs to know about it? So, big talking points for today. Why is Marquis suing SonicWall? This is not just a data breach slash ransomware event. There's a lot more to this. Next, why your MSP should care. This is not an MSP getting sued. It's obviously a prominent vendor that a lot of MSPs use. But I think we can take the lessons from this particular case and we can make your MSP safer. And then finally, what do I think the fallout could actually be here? So, allegations. Now, some of this sounds kind of damning for SonicWall. Some of it, as much as I hate to give the benefit of the doubt to a private equity behemoth, I think SonicWall probably should get the benefit of the doubt in some of this. All right, but let's just go through the allegations. SonicWall has not responded. I think I'll probably make an update video to this when they do respond, if it's anything meaningful or material, to kind of show what their side of the story is. But for right now, this is just Marquis' allegations, okay? So they said, hey, we were using SonicWall. We used it for firewalls for our headquarters and our data centers. Now, despite them alleging, hey, we had up-to-date firewalls, we're utilizing MFA, the attackers bypassed these defenses, and Marquis suffered a ransomware attack. Remember this in August of 2025. Now, allegedly, the threat actor used credentials and configurations taken from a prior breach at SonicWall. So that sucks. Now, moving on. About 6 months prior to this, SonicWall had suffered a breach that allowed the threat actors to access and download firewall configurations for every single one of their customers using cloud backup features, not just the initially reported 5%. Well, that's important. So you may be thinking, wow, SonicWall, dirtbags, they said it was only 5%. They should have known better. If I'm reading the case correctly, it looks like they had the event, and then it wasn't until later that Mandiant, I believe, who was doing the forensics report from SonicWall, actually came out with the full-blown report. So, was SonicWall lying? I don't know, but hey, if you've ever dealt with a breach, you don't just want to freak everybody out unnecessarily. There's a lot of liability issues there's reputational harms issues if you don't actually know what happened until that forensics report comes back. Now, allegedly, Marquis reached out to SonicWall to be like, hey, what's up? And SonicWall downplayed the breach, ignored, or delayed providing information to Marquis. Now, as I mentioned before, SonicWall only fully disclosed the scope of their internal breach in October/November of 2025, of course, when their full forensics report came out. So I think a little bit of benefit of the doubt should go back to SonicWall here. Now, what happened to Marquis and why are they suing these shorts off of SonicWall? Well, you have the obvious event cost dealing with ransomware, so attorney, forensics, ransom payment, negotiator, etc., etc. However, they have these ongoing issues such as reputational damage. They're a fintech company, so this does not look good. But the single most important part, and this is where I think you guys should really please pay attention, they're allegedly dealing with at least 36 data breach class action claims right now. So, trying to figure out what this is going to cost, it's really a guess. We could be looking at anywhere from, say, $5 million on the low end for all of this to $50 million on the top end. That's a lot of money. That's definitely going to get people sued. So that's why I think Marquis is really going hard in the paint here, because they're staring down the barrel of just massive potential losses, and this does not look good for them. So big money at stake leads to big claims. Now, if we go back a few months, I actually put this out on the MSP subreddit where AtBay, the cyber insurance company, a very prominent cyber insurance company in the SMB space, it looked like they were raising the flag here. What they said was, and of course I have no way to validate this information. I'd have no access to the raw data they utilized. But what they said was, hey, organizations using SonicWall products have a 300% increase in ransomware events, 104% higher initial ransomware demand, and then the average ransom payment was like 4x other ransom variants. Now, is this specifically attached to that SonicWall breach? Are there some other issues going on with SonicWall? Before you call me and you give me those questions, I don't know, because like I said, I don't have access to this underlying data here. But now, interestingly, they also said, hey, insurance guys, we know that you control these relationships. Screw you. We're going to go offer free MDR directly to our clients. Now, is this just a dirtbag insurance company trying to muscle their way into cybersecurity? Or are they really trying to like actually do the right thing here? And it might have just been a little ham-fisted on the rollout. I don't know. I hate all insurance companies equally. But what I will tell you is I don't believe I've had a single client actually take them up on their offer at this point. Now, lessons that I think we can take away for your MSP. Number one is going to be check your MSA. Please check your MSA. Specifically, third-party vendor provisions. Hey, are you liable for breaches at your vendors, right? That needs to be discussed because you're not controlling what Fortinet is doing or SonicWall is doing or any of these other giant cybersecurity companies. We can't make them do anything. And so you need to make sure that you have those protections in there and you're ready to discuss why you're not liable for this, okay? Next, what are your limitation of liability provisions? That's going to be important. Depends on the jurisdiction, depends on really the MSP, the relationship, the size of that MRR. I've seen anything from 1 month of fees in return up to 6 months of fees, 12 months of fees. I did see one guy put $1 million and that made me laugh because that's insane. But you need to make sure you got a handle on that. Are you requiring cyber insurance at your clients? I have a whole series of videos on that. Actually, I think I'll link to it right up above here on why that's such a good idea. If you're not doing that yet, rest assured there's other MSPs aren't doing it. But I think probably the majority of mature MSPs, probably the vast majority, are now requiring cyber insurance at their clients. Next, indemnification provisions for third-party claims. So, hey, if your client gets hit and now they're facing all of these data breach class action claims, are they paying for your defense if you get roped into it, or are you paying for that defense if you get roped into it? You want to start thinking about that particular issue. Next, consequential and or versus direct damage protections. This is like a semester-long course in college talking about this stuff. But I would urge you, that needs to be considered. You need to check that. All right. So consequential damages could be something like reputational harm. You don't want to pay for that as an MSP. You don't want to be on the hook on it for it. Direct damages, attorney, forensics, ransom payment, negotiator, breach notification, credit monitoring, business interruption, etc. Those direct damages, obviously you want cyber insurance to cover those as well. So please check your MSA. Then, hey, please have tech E&O insurance. It's not that expensive. Please make sure you have it. And then finally, the last question I would ask you is, how old is your MSA? If it's a couple years old, you probably need a refresh. So a lot of these issues are just bubbling up. This is an area where if you have an MSA that's 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, you really need to start getting that updated. Now, it's not uncommon that you'll have different variants of MSAs throughout your clients. So you might have, a third of your clients are still on the old version. You're waiting for that 3-year renewal period. And then you have, the other 2/3 are on the new variant, right? And you kind of have this continual roll through. Please make sure you're taking care of that because that could really get you in trouble. All right. Now, on that note, today's sponsor real quick, xclause.com. First month is free, month-to-month contracts. This is for your MSA, your SOW, CPQ, please go check out xclaws.com if you need to both upgrade and keep track of all of these contracts. I would say if you don't have a contract, man, this is a good place to start. Please go ahead and check those guys out. Now, I always get this question when something like this pops up, and effectively what they're asking is, hey, if this is happening at SonicWall, if my MSP is using SonicWall, do I now have to change that? Do I have a duty to migrate? Well, I would say, hey, I'm not your lawyer. I'm not providing official legal advice here, but I would say you likely have a duty of care as a professional engaged in these services. Now, I am unaware of any blanket legal duty to migrate because of this SonicWall issue and these particular allegations. All right. I'm not aware of that. Then again, I have no idea where you're located. I'm just a dude on the internet. So if you are using SonicWall, and I think it's probably good practice just to do this for all your particular vendors, you may want to consider an internal risk assessment along with documented vendor comparisons, right? So that way you can legitimize why you're using one vendor versus a different vendor. Now, it's not particularly, I think, useful to show this unless you really want to some random SMB business owner, because they're going to have no idea what they're looking at. But I think that's good defensive documentation if something were to arise here. Okay. Now, review. SonicWall came out with these technical remediation steps. If this is your kind of reminder, like, oh yeah, I totally forgot to do that, please go back, look at those remediation steps published by SonicWall, and take care of those as necessary. And of course, document everything. All right. You always want to be able to say, if a claim ever arises, yeah, this is why I used Arctic Wolf versus X, or this is why I used Delinea Pam versus X, or SonicWall versus X, right? You want to be able to legitimize that so it doesn't look like you were just shooting from the hip and trying to get the best deal, all right? Because that could potentially get you in trouble. Now, what do I think is going to happen to SonicWall here? Well, it's kind of hard to say. I think it's probably going to drag on for a year or two, and there's going to be motions and counter motions. All this stuff's going to happen, and then they'll probably settle. I think Marquis has a lot of skin in the game here. I think that the discovery process could be pretty brutal for SonicWall. I don't think they want that to get out. So generally, I'd say, hey, a company as big as SonicWall, at some point, they're just going to pay to make this problem probably go away so that some Yahoo like me doesn't get a hold of all those discovery documents and start making some really juicy videos about that. As sad as it is, that's what I think is probably going to happen. I do also think that large institutions, they're going to continue to look more and more at these supply chain risks. I've read some documentation online where people are saying, oh, well, you know, people are going to start using multiple vendors of firewalls and segment and kind of do all this stuff. That's not really practical, I think, for MSPs to be doing that. I don't think it's really practical for SMBs to be doing that, or even large institutions. There's just not really enough IT guys, and you start splitting the baby and things can just go sideways. So I think it's just what it is. We've seen large vendors for MSPs get hit before without naming some names, and they're still around. So will SonicWall take a hit? I don't know. They'll probably shell out some money. That's my best guess. I think they've already taken a lot of damage there, so it's just what it's going to be. All right. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please like, share, comment, subscribe. Right above me here is another video to help you, and if you click over there on my face, you can subscribe to my channel. All right, guys, with that, stay safe.